Hello, Bobby Torres here, and let's talk a little bit about vocal compression and how to get these vocals sitting a little more evenly in the mix. Let's discuss. So just recently over in the community tab on the channel, I released some raw multi-tracks asking you guys to mix the song and to submit it to me. And one of the main things that people were saying were that they were having issues getting the vocals to sound more consistent and that the singer was all over the place and the vocals needed some crazy work with some crazy post-processing effect or plugin. Well, I've decided because of this to make this video and show you that it's really not that complicated, and all it takes is a basic fundamental understanding of compression and how to treat a vocal track within the mix. Now, these multi-tracks, if you want to have access to them, if you don't have it already, you could download these multi-tracks for absolutely free by clicking the link below in this video's description and apply everything that you've learned in this video to those vocal tracks, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised how easy it is to get them sitting nice and evenly within the mix. So any further ado, let's take a listen to the vocals as they stand within my mix, and then I'm gonna dive deep and explain to you exactly how I'm achieving the nice, consistent vocal sound that exists within my mix. Let's take a listen. Okay, in my opinion, those vocals sound pretty even to me. Now, when I recorded this song back in 2010, I had the vocalist sing through an old beat up, actually it was his microphone. I think it was a Shure SM48, if I'm not mistaken. It was actually a 58 knockoff or a cheaper version of an SM58. And we wanted a more gritty vocal sound, almost like he was recording live, where he's holding the mic, moving around. Now, most people, again, when they hear the raw tracks, they're gonna say, oh my God, these vocals are so dynamic. How do I get them to sit evenly? You have to remember, there are some amazing sounding live albums out there where a vocalist is holding the mic far away from his face, he's singing close to the mic, there's room spill, you can hear the crowd through the mic, and those albums exist. So it is possible. Again, it all comes down to just understanding some basic compression techniques. And this mix, again, the compression that I'm using is so straightforward, and I wanna share it with you so you could achieve these results with these multi-tracks or any other set of multi-tracks or vocal tracks that you're working with. So I'm gonna concentrate on the chorus of this song, and I'm gonna completely bypass my vocal chain, and then I will dissect and share with you my exact processing on these vocal tracks. And specifically, I'm gonna focus in on the compression because the consistency that you guys are looking for really comes down to how I'm approaching the compression on these vocals. But with that being said, let's listen to the vocals completely dry and completely raw.
Maybe I should try a little more. You'll not believe in my new disguise. And baby, there's a lot to let it go.
So as you can hear, the vocals sound very dynamic, almost like as if you were mixing a live recording, if you've ever done that, where he's a little far away from the mic, he's a little close to the mic, he's cupping the mic, he's not cupping the mic, and that's the aesthetic that we were going for at the time. So up first in my chain is a very basic harmonic saturator, and it's doing very, very little. It's just adding a little bit of analog color and a little bit of analog flavor. This was recorded in my basic project studio where I'm not using any real analog gear at all. As a matter of fact, I was using a Universal Audio Solo 610, which is a tube preamp, and just to show you, it didn't do anything magical to the vocal sound. These vocals sound just like any other vocals that I would be recording out of my studio, even when I'm using just a regular interface. But let's hear what this plugin is doing to the vocal track. Again, it's gonna be doing very little, maybe just adding a little bit of harmonic saturation.
And maybe I should try a little more. You'll not believe in my new disguise.
A little bit of color, a tiny bit of level control, but not a lot. Most of the control that you're hearing in my mix comes down to the compression. And on that topic, up first, I have my very first compressor. Now I'm just gonna let you know, I actually have two compressors on my vocal chain, followed up by a limiter, a brick wall limiter. This is my go-to chain that I use on vocals. It's emulating a vocal chain that most producers were using back in analog days when they would compress vocals on the way in, so the vocals are above the noise floor when recording onto tape. Obviously, I am not recording onto tape in my project studio. I just like the sound of this type of chain, and it also offers a nice consistent vocal sound that's nice and transparent and doesn't sound compressed. So with that being said, this compressor is up first, and it's happening before my EQ. And let's look at how much gain reduction is taking place in this compressor, and we'll talk about some of the settings.
Maybe I should try a little more. You'll not believe in my new disguise.
Okay, so I'm using a very low ratio, around 4:1, medium attack, medium release. And right off the bat in this compressor, I'm achieving between 8 to 12 dB of gain reduction. So I'm not being shy here, but here's the trick. This is not enough compression to keep these vocals sounding nice and even. What most people will tend to do is try to get that even sound that you have in your mind that sounds like your favorite albums all out of one plugin. But again, I prefer to do it in stages for a net effect that's more transparent. So with that being said, after this plugin, after this compressor, I have my very basic EQ rolling off all frequencies below, let's see here, 175 Hertz, pulling out some lower mids. Let's hear what the EQ is doing.
Maybe I should try a little more.
So it's really cleaning up the vocal sound, nothing crazy, not boosting any top end, just a basic digital EQ, getting rid of lower mids and low end. But up next is my second compressor, okay? So we already have one compressor that's doing around 8 to 12 dB of gain reduction. Now we have a second compressor here with a slightly higher ratio, same attack and release, and let's look at how much gain reduction is taking place in my second compressor.
Maybe I should try a little more.
So my second compressor after my EQ is achieving around 6 to 8 dB of compression. So far we have almost 20 dB of gain reduction stacked across two different compressors, but I'm not done yet. After that compressor, I have a brick wall limiter that's there just to catch any stray peaks and just keep a nice tight cap on my vocal sound, so my vocals sound nice and consistent without sounding squashed or distorted or compressed. Let's take a listen and see what the L1 limiter or the brick wall limiter is doing. And by the way, if you're not familiar with what a brick wall limiter actually is, it's a limiter with a ratio of infinity to 1. What that means is that wherever you set your threshold, nothing will exceed no matter what, which is what I want. Let's take a look.
Maybe I should try a little more. You'll not believe in my new disguise.
Oh, and fun fact, if you listen closely to the raw vocal track, if you download these multitracks, you can hear the music in the background because I didn't even bother turning off the studio monitors when I recorded this track. Also in my studio, I sometimes will just keep the monitors blasting just to get the singer in the vibe, because for me, the vibe of the vocal is more important than the fidelity of the vocal. If the performance is good and the vibe is good, you could pretty much make anything work as far as a pro level vocal track. But with that being said, I have about 6 dB of gain reduction taking place in my L1 limiter here. Some of the straight peaks are even kicking it into around 12 dB of gain reduction, but in general, it's sitting at around 6 to maybe 8 dB of gain reduction. So in total, we're talking 20 to 30 dB of total gain reduction on this vocal track. And that's why these vocals sound nice and consistent in this mix. So if you mix this track, do not be shy with your compression and try stacking your compressors in order to achieve a nice consistent vocal sound that doesn't sound overly compressed. Because if I tried to get all of this gain reduction out of one compressor, I don't care if it's a hardware unit, on an analog console, the most expensive fancy pants plugins in the world, it's not gonna sound right. You need to stack your compressors just like engineers used to do back in the analog days when recording onto tape through a console. And finally, after that, just to complete this vocal chain, I have a Deesser. Let's see what it's doing. So the Deesser is kicking into gain reduction only on the sibilances, which is exactly what I want. It's not doing anything to the vocal until those S's come into play and any other sharp or transient heavy sounding sibilances. So there you have it. There's my dead simple vocal chain that I'm achieving with a few basic plugins, and all these plugins I'm using are pretty much ancient. The R compressor has existed since the beginning of time, and the same thing with the L1 limiter. The stock compressors in your DAW are definitely just as good as the ones that I'm using in this mix. Again, you could download these multi-tracks to practice mixing for absolutely free. Click the link below and the multi-tracks are all yours. And also, once you've mixed the song, feel free to send it to me. Simply reply to any of my emails with your mix and I'd love to hear what you've got going on. So tell me, I'd love to know, do you use multiple compressors in your vocal chain, or do you try to achieve all of your vocal compression needs all out of one plugin? Leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload weekly videos on all things Metal Rock production. If you're interested in some Frightbox swag, I've got t-shirts, mugs, and a ton of other cool stuff on the way. There's a link below to the Frightbox merch store in this video's description. And until next time, happy mixing.